Hi, everyone calls me Father Thomas. I'm 71 years old. To protect everyone involved, I have changed their names, including my own, in the story I'm about to tell you now. The vision came without warning. One moment I was dying. The next, I stood face to face with Christ himself. What he revealed about the mark of the beast and its connection to our current political landscape shattered everything I thought I knew. This isn't speculation or theory. This is what I witnessed beyond the veil. Before we start, if you believe God can reach you even in our darkest moments, please comment where you're from. I'd love to know I'm not alone in this. I died in the sacristy of the local church on March 12th, just after finishing Sunday Mass. But before I tell you what happened there, I need to tell you who I was before that day. For more than 45 years, I have been a Catholic priest. I have worked in the same small town in Pennsylvania where I was born and raised. When I was a kid, there was coal dust in the air. Most of the mines are closed now, but the pride and toughness of the people here never went away. People in my parish are strong, kind, and stubborn, and they've been through a lot. I have too. Every Sunday, I stood at that old wooden pulpit and looked out at people I had known for years, baptized their kids, put their loved ones to rest, sat at the kitchen table while family fights, prayed next to hospital beds. They knew how I felt, and I knew how they felt. But something changed in the last few years. People didn't just go to church to find hope. They came to look for lines in the sand, to tell me who was right and who was wrong. They wanted me to say one name from the pulpit more and more: Trump. I didn't. Not because I didn't like him, not because I was on his side, but I thought the altar wasn't for politics. It was for Jesus, for his love, his mercy, and his cross. But not everyone thought that way. After Mass one Sunday, I found a note in my Bible. Say what is true, or you are a false prophet. No name, that's it. One day, one of my younger priests, whom I had once mentored, whispered to me in the sacristy, "You don't see it, do you? The end times are here. There is only one person who can stop the beast. Trump." He looked at me like I couldn't see, and maybe I was. I might still be. The divide was even deeper in my own family. Michael, my younger brother, worked as a coal miner for 30 years before his lungs gave out. He was tougher than steel and never held back what he thought. But at some point, he decided I had become weak. He stopped going to church and told other people I was part of the deep state clergy. The first time he said it, I laughed, but it wasn't funny. We haven't talked in almost 4 years. Patricia, my sister, used to sing in the church choir. She had a voice that could make you cry. Then, one day, she stopped coming. I later learned that she had joined a patriot prayer group that thought communists had gotten into the church. I guess that meant me. The worst part? Our mom. She died last year, may God rest her soul. But in the last few months of her life, she would often say, "I just wish my kids would talk to each other again. You were always so close to each other." I used to sit next to her hospital bed, hold her hand, and try to forget how bad I felt. You might know how it feels to let down the people you care about the most. I did my best to keep the church together. I really did. I preached about love, forgiveness, and being one. No matter what I said, someone was always mad. One week, I was a coward for not speaking up. The following week, I was a heretic for even bringing up politics. After Mass, I would sometimes sit alone in the sanctuary after everyone else had left. Just sit there and look at the windows with the stained glass. I would run my fingers along the edge of the pews and say prayers I didn't know how to end. I stopped getting good sleep. I'd get up at 2 or 3 in the morning, all sweaty and with a racing heart. Not out of fear, but out of heaviness. I couldn't explain this pain in my chest. I thought it might just be stress. I even started to forget small things. I'd walk into a room and not know why I was there. I'd leave the door unlocked. I once put my chalice in the fridge. But the criticism and being alone didn't hurt as much as the other things. It was the uncertainty. I started to think that I might have failed at what I was meant to do. If I had spent my whole life trying to build something that was falling apart around me. I kept asking God, where are you in all of this? Am I still doing what you want me to do? Like always, I went to Mass at 10 a.m. on March 12th. There were a lot of people in the pews. People's faces looked tired and closed off. I talked about the Beatitudes in a soft voice during my homily, about wanting to do the right thing, not having power, about making peace, not fighting. A woman in the third row stood up and left. I don't know why, but it hurt. After the last blessing, I went back to the sacristy. My knees hurt, which they always did. The smell of incense was still in the air. I reached up to take off my chasuble, but then I stopped. There was a cross on the wall. Christ with his arms outstretched, bleeding, not working. I got down on my knees in front of it, and I started to pray, not with words, but with a deep groan in my heart. I said quietly, Lord, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to care about these people. I don't know how to keep this church together. They are ripping each other apart, my family, my flock, and even your priests. Lord, I'm tired. I'm really tired. Tell me what to do. Please. That's the last thing I can think of. Later, they told me that one of the altar servers found me on the floor, still kneeling. Shut your eyes. No heartbeat. For 8 minutes, they were clinically dead. The doctors said it could have been a heart attack brought on by stress. Perhaps. There was no damage to my heart, no blockage, and no signs of trouble. But I know what happened. I passed away. And there, beyond death, Jesus met me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What I saw there, the sanctuary of light, the sadness in his eyes, and the truth he showed me about Trump, the mark of the beast, and the division tearing through our world, it wasn't what I thought it would be. It was much deeper than I thought it would be. That's what I need to tell you. For now, though, I'll leave you with this. If you've ever had to choose between people you love, if you've ever thought about whether you're doing enough or doing anything right at all, if you've ever prayed in the dark and weren't sure who was listening, then maybe you'll get what happened next. Because what happened after my last breath wasn't the end, it was the start. I remember falling, but not the way you think I would. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't violent. It felt more like letting go. One moment, I was kneeling in front of the cross, my tired eyes full of tears. Then there was silence, complete and total silence, as if the whole world had stopped for a breath I didn't take. Then the feeling came. It felt like something was breaking open in my chest. No pain, just freedom. Like when you finally let go of your fist after holding it too tightly for too long. Like a weight that lifts you up instead of pushing you down. I thought I might have passed out at first, or that I was having a dream. Or maybe this was just how it felt to fall asleep and never wake up. But then I opened my eyes and saw myself. I was still on my knees, still slumped down in front of the cross. But I was also standing there and watching. That's when I got scared. Am I dead? I looked at my hands. They were glowing, but not with light from any sun I knew. It glows more like morning fog does when the sun comes up. My fingertips sparkled. My chest was warm. Not hot, but alive in a way I had never felt before. I turned around and saw the sacristy. The wooden cabinets were still there, the oil lamp was still flickering, and the vestments were hanging neatly. But everything was clearer and deeper. The colors are more vivid. There was something rich about the silence. Then I saw them, 2 paramedics running in. One of them knelt next to me. The other one called for help. And then I saw Peter, the altar server, standing in the doorway with his mouth wide open and tears in his eyes. Poor kid. He was just 13 years old. I wanted to touch him and make him feel better. I tried to say something, but nothing came out. I tried to get closer to him, but my feet didn't touch the ground. And then the room started to fade away. Not all at once. It was as if the wooden walls were made of memory instead of matter, and they turned to light. The ceiling turned into colors, like warm golds and soft blues. Then the wind came. It wasn't cold or hot. It was just there. It moved through me and around me, like a breath that wrapped itself around my soul. And I was getting up. Not flying, not floating. Being raised, like being carried by something much stronger and softer than gravity. As I went up, I saw small flashes of my life. My mom brushing my hair before my first communion. The first time I ever baptized someone. There was a time when I cried behind a closed confessional door because a man told me a sin that was too heavy for me to carry. They weren't very loud memories, only soft echoes. Then I went through what I can only describe as a veil. It wasn't a curtain or a wall, it was something thin and full of light. It felt like being in the space between 2 heartbeats, and all of a sudden, I was no longer on Earth. I stood in what felt like a huge sanctuary. It was much bigger than a cathedral, but there were no pillars, stone, or wood. The walls sparkled like living light. There were colors dancing where there shouldn't have been any, and I couldn't name them. And there was no roof. It was just an endless space that felt close, like the sky was kneeling down to hear. There was an altar in front of me that looked like it was made of clear glass, but it was alive, not chilly, not hard, living. And then I felt it. A presence, and I knew he was there before I turned. Jesus. I turned slowly, as if my soul already knew who it would see. He was only a few steps away, wearing a simple robe that glowed with its own light. He didn't have any shoes on. His hands were marked. His eyes, oh my God, his eyes. Have you ever looked someone in the eye and felt like they could see everything and still loved you? That's how it was. I fell apart when he looked at me. Not because they were afraid, not because of guilt, but my knees couldn't handle the weight of love. I fell to the ground and shook, and I cried. I cried like a child, sobbing loudly and ugly from a place deeper than any wound I'd ever had. My whole body shook. There was too much love. At first, it wasn't very gentle. It was too much like standing under a waterfall after being in the desert. I wanted to get away. I wanted to tell him about every doubt, every weakness, and every time I let him down. But before I could say anything, I felt him kneel down next to me. He didn't say anything at first. He just put his hand on my back. And all of a sudden, I stopped shaking. Peace came into me, but not as a thought or a feeling. It came in like the truth, like something I had always known but had forgotten. That peace filled every part of me when I breathed it in. He said in a low voice, "You are safe now." I didn't earn it. I knew that. I had failed in so many ways. I let fear guide me, let division grow, and let silence take the place of courage. But still, he held me in his arms. Yes, Jesus held me. I am an old priest with shaky hands and too many regrets. He hugged me like a father hugs a hurt son, and at that moment I understood what it meant to be home. No sermon, no holy thing, no earthly action had ever produced such tranquility. It wasn't just that there was no pain, there was also love. His robe touched my face. If that was his heartbeat, it sounded like music, like every psalm I had ever read was written in that way. And for the first time in years, I wasn't tired. I didn't feel like I had to show anything. I didn't feel the pressure of expectations or the pain of being apart. I just felt loved. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Time didn't work the same way there as it does here. Eventually, he stood up and helped me get back on my feet. I looked into his face again and saw something I didn't expect. Sadness. Not angry, not judgment, but deep, painful sadness. And I knew. He was going to show me something that would hurt. I needed to see something, but not yet. For now, he just said, "You have come a long way, Thomas." I nodded, but I didn't know how to talk in that place. Words seemed too small. He said, "You carried my name, even when it was heavy." Tears came back. I thought about the letters that made me mad, the nights without sleep, the way my family turned their backs on me. "Come," he said, "I have more to show you." With that, he turned to the altar made of living crystal. It started to glow brighter, with a light that pulsed like a heartbeat, and I knew I was about to see something that wasn't me. Something about my nation, something about my people, something about the mark that had broken so many hearts. But even though I was amazed, I wasn't scared. Because I wasn't by myself, and I wasn't unloved. I was held, and whatever came next, I was ready to see it. Jesus stood in front of the living crystal altar, and the light from his robe made it glow. It felt like the air around us was alive, and even silence seemed to worship him here. He turned a little and looked at me again. I could still see the sadness in his eyes, not mad, not disappointed, just sadness and love. I moved closer to him. I said, "Lord?" My voice broke. "Why are you sad?" Jesus put his hand up and touched the altar's surface. The crystal moved like water. He said softly, "I want to show you something, not to make you feel bad, but to set you free." As soon as he spoke, the altar lit up like a screen, and I was no longer in the sanctuary. I saw my local church just like it looked last Sunday. People sat stiffly in the pews, their faces tight, and their eyes darted to each other like they were enemies instead of neighbors. I saw angry whispers, crossed arms, and people looking at my words for clues to see if I was with them or against them. I could see myself at the pulpit reading scripture. My voice was steady, but my eyes were tired. I knew what I was feeling at that moment: stress, fear, confusion. Jesus talked to me in a quiet voice. "You took on their pain, but you also took on their fear." I nodded slowly. I tried to stay in the middle. "Lord, that's where I thought peace lived." Jesus looked at me, not harshly, but firmly. "Thomas, peace is not silence. Truth spoken in love is what brings peace, and love takes guts." His words hit me hard. I looked down. I had always been afraid of pushing people away, so I held back. I didn't say too much, but maybe I didn't say enough by doing that. The vision changed. I could see living rooms now, lots of them. Families sitting in front of TVs and scrolling through their phones. I heard voices that were loud and angry, talking heads shouting, headlines flashing like warnings, enemies inside. Traitors without God, fight for the soul of America. I saw people, good people, who were scared. I saw prayer turn into panic. I saw pastors yelling about politics while Bibles sat on the shelf. I saw churches take down crosses and put up flags instead. Jesus said something again. His voice was soft, but it was strong. This is what happens when fear takes over the heart. when people look for kings on earth instead of the King of Heaven. I saw it happen, Christians turning on each other, brother versus brother. Churches breaking up. Families are broken up. And then I saw Michael, my younger brother. He was alone in his small living room, watching the news and yelling at the screen. The Bible behind him was closed and untouched. His face was red with anger, but underneath, I saw something more. Being alone and pain. Jesus pointed at him. "He's not your enemy," I cried. "He thinks I gave up on the truth," I said quietly. Jesus said, "He feels like love has left him." I fell down again, this time on my knees on the glowing floor of that holy place. I should have reached out. I should have called him. Politics got in the way of our relationship. Jesus knelt down next to me again, just like before. He said, "Many hearts have been marked. Not on the skin, but on the soul." He reached out his hand, and I saw it in his palm. A sign, not drawn or carved, but shining with something I couldn't put into words. It throbbed, as if it were alive. And then I saw a different hand, one that is human. It belonged to Trump. I saw a mark on it that was similar but darker and sharper. It also glowed, but in a different way, not a blessing, but a warning. My heart raced. I asked, "Is this the mark of the beast?" I almost cried when Jesus looked at me with such love. He said, "It is a mark, but not the kind that most people are afraid of." He put his hand over mine. "The real mark," he said slowly, "is what controls the mind and heart." He looked into my soul. When my people put earthly power above heavenly truth, when fear takes the place of faith, and when they put man before God, that is the mark. I couldn't get any air, not because I was scared, but because I knew. It wasn't about tattoos, chips, or secret codes. It was about loyalty. Jesus went on, "Yes, there are signs in the body, but don't let your body fool you. Recognize the spirit. It's not a hand mark, it's a throne mark, and a lot of people have let men sit on their hearts. I see it now. The mark of the beast had nothing to do with Trump. It was about worshiping idols, about turning any leader into a hero, about letting love drive faith instead of fear. I felt something let go inside me, a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. I cried again. This time, not because of guilt, but because of the truth. Jesus reached out and gently lifted me up. He said, "You are not guilty. You're called." I was shaking as I looked at him. "But I messed up. I didn't say anything. My family is gone." "At my church." Jesus smiled, not because he was happy, but because he was warm. "Then you get it," he said. "Now you see." He turned, and I followed him to the edge of the sanctuary. I could see earth beyond it, slowly spinning in the distance, surrounded by light and shadow. Jesus said, "Your people are blind, but they are still my kids." I agreed. My heart hurt. "I don't want to leave you," I said softly, and I meant it. Standing there, I didn't want to go back to being angry, confused, and divided, but Jesus held my face in his hands, like a father does with a scared child. He said, "You have to go. Not to fix everything, but to remind them of me." I couldn't say what I wanted to say. What if they don't pay attention? He smiled again. Love anyway. What if someone attacks me again? Forgive anyway. What if I'm scared? I'll be there for you. I couldn't stop crying. Jesus gave me one last hug. "Thomas, you were never meant to do it alone." Then he leant in close and said in a voice that sounded like thunder wrapped in a whisper, "Tell them I am not in the rage. I'm not afraid. I don't want to be one of the idols they make out of men. His last words rang in my heart. I am still the way, still the truth, still the life. Then the sanctuary faded away. The light got dimmer. The peace went away. And I felt myself falling back into the pain, the noise, and the world. But this time, I wasn't the only one. I felt weight first, not emotional, physical. Limbs that are heavy, lips that are dry, beeping in my ears. The air smelled strongly of antiseptic. And pain. Not a sharp pain, but a dull, aching one that reminds you you're still alive. I blinked slowly. There was a buzzing sound from the lights above. My chest rose. The machines clicked. Someone said my name. Father Thomas? Can you hear me? A nurse bent down next to me and looked at me with wide eyes, as if she had seen a ghost. She might have been. I was back, but there was something in me that hadn't. For the most part, I was quiet while I lay in that hospital bed for 3 days. The doctors said my heart was fine. They couldn't tell me why it stopped or how I got back without any damage. They said it was a miracle. I nodded in a polite way, but I was sad on the inside. Not for my well-being, for what I had left behind. It's hard to put into words how sad it is to leave perfect love. Jesus had held me. I had seen his eyes and felt his arms around me. I had heard his voice, which was kind and truthful at the same time. I was back in a body that creaked and groaned, with noise, opinions, and the blur of life rushing forward all around me. One night, I was alone in that hospital room and cried. Not because I'm scared, from desire, but along with that sadness, something else came. Clear. Jesus had shown me what was important, and what didn't, and I couldn't go back to being who I was. Michael, my brother, was the first person to come. He stood in the doorway with his ball cap in his hands and his eyes down like a boy waiting to be yelled at. I hadn't seen him in 4 years. I opened my arms and didn't say a word. He moved forward slowly at first, and then all at once. He put his arms around me and started to cry. Deep, loud sobs into my hospital gown. He whispered, "I thought I lost you. I thought I would never get the chance." I held him even more tightly. I said softly, "No more sides, Mike. You're my brother. You're mine. That's all that counts." We didn't talk about politics. We talked about our mom, about the river where we used to fish. Around the time he broke his wrist trying to skateboard down the church steps, he turned around and said, "Let's start over," as he left. I nodded. Let's begin again. I didn't come back to the church the same way I left. The sleepless nights and anxious silence were over. I went up to that pulpit with peace. I didn't preach what my party said. I didn't avoid the truth either. I preached that the kingdom is more important than the country. Christ over disorder. Love is stronger than fear. I told people about my experience not to scare them or brag, but to show them how far we've strayed from what really matters. And something unexpected happened. After Mass, people stayed, not to argue, but to pray. They cried, they held each other, they told how scared they had been, not of hell, not of sin, but of one another. I began a new series called Kingdoms in Conflict. We talked honestly about what it means to be citizens of heaven while living in a world that isn't perfect. We read the Bible together as children of God, not as Democrats or Republicans. There is now a rule at church that no political buttons, flyers, or slogans are allowed inside. I told them, this is holy ground. Let it stay sacred. Some people left. I bless them. But a lot of people stayed, and the people who stayed changed. I spend more time in living rooms than at my desk now. I go to see the lonely widows, the angry grandfathers, and the young single moms who are barely getting by. I sit down with them, I pay attention, I pray. I stopped thinking of ministry as a job and started thinking of it as a calling again. Now my days are less busy. I get up early, drink my coffee slowly, and walk through town at my own pace. I used to fill my calendar so full that I hardly had any time for people. Now I have space. There is room for breaks. Space for healing. Space for grace. 2 weeks after I got home, my sister Patricia called me. She cried before she said anything. I just paid attention. "I'm sorry," she said in a low voice. "I got so caught up that I forgot about you." "I know," I said. "I stopped seeing you too. Next Tuesday, we'll meet for lunch. I'm bringing her favorite dessert from the bakery near Main Street, lemon bars. Remember when she used to sing in the choir? I think she might do it again." Another thing has changed as well. I can't tell where people are standing when I look at them now. I can see what they're carrying. You know that look someone has when they're smiling, but their eyes are begging someone to see their pain? I see that now. Every time, at the store, in the bank, even at weddings and funerals. People are walking around with signs of exhaustion, not tattoos or technology. Separation, confusion, fear, and I tell them, you are not your thoughts. Your vote doesn't define you. Your anger does not define you. You are seen, you are loved, by a Savior who still holds out his arms and says, you are safe now. Do I still miss heaven? Yes, every day. But I also have a part of it with me now, in how I talk, in how I hear, how I forgive. That's what Jesus told me to do, and I said yes. If you're reading this and your heart feels heavy, if you don't like the noise and the fighting anymore, or if you think your family is falling apart or your church is falling apart, do not be fooled by flesh and blood, Jesus told me. Know the spirits. Look for my face, not political victory. He's still talking, still in love, still calling us back to him. And the good news is, it's not too late. Not for your family, not for your church, not for you. I passed away on March 12th in the back of a quiet sacristy. I got up again with a new heart. And I'm here to tell you that Jesus is still the way. The truth still stands. Still the life? Pick him. Not just with your mouth, but with your faithfulness, with your love, with your life. Because in the end, no president will help you, no party will help you. Only Jesus can put something on you that will last forever. Before we close, if you believe God still speaks today, type Amen in the comments. It encourages me to know we're connected. And if this message touched you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.